about Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Trudeau has been in office now for coming up to a year. I believe it was around September or October last year he was elected. Can't remember the exact month. But it seems like a good time to have a little bit of an evaluation of Mr. Trudeau and not so much his domestic policies, but perhaps his image and the perception of him around the world. For Canadian viewers, this may be interesting to see an outsider's perspective. Um, I think he's a very interesting man. I think he is one of the most interesting leaders in the world today. As a centrist, find myself in agreement with some of his positions, but in disagreement with others. First and foremost, obviously, he's Prime Minister of Canada, so Canadians would be most impacted by the decisions he makes. But Canada is a major world player. It's a powerful country. It's a wealthy country. Um, and I think it is fair to say that Justin Trudeau has, on some level, put Canada back on the map. I mean, with all respect to Stephen Harper, although he was Prime Minister for 10 years, well, 9 years, he wasn't really a household name in other countries. I mean, in the UK, although we're a sister country of Canada, if you said to someone on the street Stephen Harper, in all honesty, a lot of people wouldn't have known the name. I did because I happen to be interested in politics. But I mean, average Jill or Joe on the street probably wouldn't have known the name. Um, Likewise with Paul Martin before that. I think Justin Trudeau is one of the most prominent Canadian prime ministers for a very long time. It could be because of the name. Actually, I've just watched an interesting interview on the BBC where he said that actually, contrary to it being an advantage for him, he had to work harder to get through doors. And I think that's very much true, not just of political families, but any son or daughter who finds that they have a name with a famous parent actually has to work harder. I think it's a bit of a myth that it makes life easier for them. If anything, it makes it harder. There are parallels in the United States, obviously. George Bush Jr. In the UK, Hilary Benn would be an example. He is a shadow foreign secretary, and he's more right wing than his um, late father, who was a very notable left wing figure. But now Hilary Benn is starting to, he's quite a prominent figure in his own right. And a while back, when he voted on the Syria airstrikes, a lot of supporters of his father were very angry that he was taking a more right wing position than his father. At the time, I thought that was ridiculous because I think people should hold their own. And I'm sure had Tony Benn still been alive, he would have said, "Look, my son's his own man." So I think it's absurd to expect people to be like their parents. Although in the case of Justin Trudeau, that is the case. He's a liberal. His father was a liberal. He's colourful character. His father was a colourful character. It goes beyond politics as well. You get it in the world of sport. You get. I'm a fan of boxing. You get it sometimes in the world of boxing. Nigel Benn's son, Chris Eubank's son, and there's other examples. Um, Muhammad Ali's daughter. There's other examples. Um, but I just want to focus a bit on Justin Trudeau. I kind of find myself a little bit ambiguous about him. I do find him very interesting, but I kind of switch between respecting him and also feeling a little bit irritated by him because I think, I'm not a Canadian. I don't know all the domestic politics that are going on, but I would describe Justin Trudeau as being somewhere between Tony Blair and Robert Kennedy. Now, that might sound like a strange thing to say, but right now it's the best way I can sort of think to describe him. Tony Blair, because he's a centrist figure, he's not hard left. He is a liberal, but he's not hard left. Um, and I'm not saying his foreign policy is anything like Tony Blair. He'd be a lot less interventionist than Blair was. Um, but But I'm making that comparison because Tony Blair at the time in 1997 really shook up what was perceived to be an old system. Now Justin Trudeau, he's a young face. He's charismatic. He's smart. He's so likewise in 1997 Tony Blair was very much viewed that way. I do think that Justin Trudeau is going through something of a honeymoon period. Um, My observation of Canadian politics prior to this has been that Canada, much like the UK, has an enormous amount of cynicism, and Canadians tend to be very cynical about their elected representatives. With Justin Trudeau, um, there's something different because a lot of Canadians have very good impressions of Justin Trudeau. That's my outside perspective. Now, in a way, that's a good thing because I get a little bit tired of people constantly rubbishing their leaders. So, in a sense, it is not, it's refreshing to see people actually, support their leaders for once. That is quite refreshing to see Canadians say, "Yeah, we actually are proud of our prime minister. We support this guy." Of course, that's not universal. Canada's a democracy. Trudeau has plenty of critics. Um, I did defend him a while back with the whole Elbowgate incident because I think that was totally blown out of proportion, and I think some of his political opponents were really taking advantage of that. One thing that it does slightly irritate me about Justin Trudeau is there's this expression, social justice warrior, and I don't really use it so much myself. It tends to be a conservative expression. I'm a centrist. But I guess what conservatives would say is that it's kind of like, I mean, there's certain things that Justin Trudeau does I can't help but feel is a little bit of political gesturing. Like, for example, going to the Toronto Pride event and basically saying, oh, this shouldn't be a big deal, but then drawing attention to it. It's a little bit hypocritical, kind of saying this shouldn't be a big deal. Oh, but look at me. I'm the Prime Minister who's in the middle of the Pride event. Take notice of me. It sort of seems to be sending out mixed messages. And Justin Trudeau does seem absolutely hell bent on pandering to, frankly, politically correct social movements and social statements. I mean, honestly, I find it hard to believe that transgender issues is the number one priority in Canada today. Um, only last month there was major wildfires in Alberta. Now, I'm not going to pass judgment on how Mr. Trudeau responded to that. I don't know. He maybe responded to it very well. But sometimes, from an outside perspective, it seems that he's putting a huge amount of priority on so-called progressive issues, and I can't help but feel that some of that seems to be basically pandering to liberal sentiments. And well, he is a liberal, but I don't know. It just seems to be a bit politically correct, and it's all very well talking about LGBT rights in Canada and how liberal he is and so on. I'd like Justin Trudeau to be a little bit more outspoken about severe human rights abuses in Islamic countries, frankly. And he seems more keen to lecture conservatives in Canada than criticise the appalling human rights abuses being carried out by Islamic State and so forth and so on. I could be dead wrong about that, and I'm an outsider. It's up to Canadians to pass judgment on Mr. Trudeau, but um, he's not that dissimilar to Obama. Obama is, at the beginning of the video, I said he's somewhere between Tony Blair and Robert Kennedy. The reason I mentioned Robert Kennedy is because of the liberal side of things. Maybe that's not a good example. Maybe I should say he's somewhere between Tony Blair and Barack Obama. Um, Obama is very similar in the States. Obama has very much kind of nodded to progressive causes. Um, don't get me wrong. I've no problem with elected leaders, advocating equality and egalitarian issues, but I do think sometimes it is done for political capital. And really, is transgender issues the number one priority facing Canada today? Because that seems to be the impression that Mr. Trudeau is sending out, that this is the number one issue facing Canada. I just find that hard to believe. I mean, Canada's like any other developed country. It has unemployment, it has crime, it's a huge country. There's all sorts of issues to do with natural resources, and NAFTA, all these sort of issues. Surely those things are a bigger priority for Canada than social progressive issues that, frankly, impact a very, very small number of people. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's a liberal and he's he's putting his conviction into practice. That's fine, but really, are these the major issues facing Canada today? because that seems to be the message that he's sending out. Um, I'm aware there will be liberals who are watching this and feel, oh, you're a right wing asshole. No, not at all. I'm a centrist. And I've plenty of videos critical of right wing opinions and conservative positions. But, there is, it's the same with the feminism issue. I mean, when Justin Trudeau says it shouldn't be news for a man to call himself a feminist, that's fine. He can call himself whatever he wants. But I can't help but feel sometimes he is placing himself as the poster boy of progressive issues, and he's very happy to do that. So I think there's a slight smugness to him, a slight, not necessarily arrogance, but I think he's very happy to be the poster boy for some of these causes, whilst at the same time they shouldn't be saying they shouldn't be big issues. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, these issues are no big deal, but I'm going to bring lots of attention to them. You know, you can't, that seems to me to be sending out a mixed message. So yeah, it's great that the heterosexual prime minister of a major democratic country can take part in a gay pride parade. That wonderful, great. Um, but why make such a big deal out of it? That to me just seems to be political gesturing, whilst saying the exact opposite. So to me, that's sending out mixed messages. Do it, but why make such a big issue out of it? I think there's mixed messages there. Um, so yeah, if you're Canadian, feel free to share your thoughts. What do you think of Mr. Trudeau? Did you vote for him? Do you support him? If you're a Canadian Conservative, feel free to say areas where you disagree with him. Just to be clear, I'm not a Trudeau critic. There's areas I think I could probably agree with him on. Unquestionably, he's a charismatic leader. He's a smart guy, and I actually see some parallels. Put it this way, I've done charity boxing. I'm into politics. I'm not saying I'm going to be Britain's Justin Trudeau. He's a lot better looking than I am. But he's an interesting guy. And he's going to be a leader to watch. Actually, I would go as far as saying he could be a candidate for Person of the Year, Time Magazine Person of the Year. I'm not exaggerating. Why not? He is one of the most prominent leaders of 2016, and he really has put Canada back on the map. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on Justin Trudeau. Obviously, this video would be of particular interest to Canadians, but for anyone, let me know your thoughts.